Breaking tonight, a Chinese state-run newspaper says the arrest of a Chinese telecom executive at our request is a, quote, declaration of war. Wow. Meng Wanzhou is the chief financial officer of a Chinese telecom, big Chinese telecom company called Huawei. It's actually the largest telecom company in the world. She's also the daughter of the founder, and she was taken into custody by Canadian authorities on extradition orders from none other than us, the United States of America. The arrest, I should say, causing some unrest there in China, unfolding on the exact same night that President Trump and his Chinese counterpart, Xi Jinping, sat down for dinner in Buenos Aires and agreed to a 90-day trade truce. Now the White House insists the president did not know about the extradition request beforehand, but others did. Watch.
I knew in advance, but this is something that we get from the Justice Department, and these kinds of things happen with some frequency. We certainly don't inform the president on every one of them.
Which begs the question, is this all part of some negotiation strategy? Joining me right now, Assistant to the President for Trade and Manufacturing Policy, Peter Navarro. Peter, good to see you.
Hey, Trish. Hey, before we get started, that clip from Ambassador Bolton, my understanding is that NPR had to retract that because Ambassador Bolton, neither the President nor Ambassador Bolton were aware of the Justice Department action prior to the dinner. Neither
of them were aware, you're saying now?
Correct.
Shouldn't they have been aware?
No, I don't think so. We are a democracy, unlike China. The Justice Department acts independently when it prosecutes felonies, and that's the case that we have with this particular case. No, none of us on the team were aware. Pardon me?
Wow, okay. None of you on the team, you were not aware? Mr. Kudlow, was he aware?
No one was on the team was aware. And let me be clear. Let me paint the picture for you. Prior to sitting down at dinner, we met several times as a group. Larry Kudlow, Steve Mnuchin, Ambassador Bolton, Secretary Pompeo, Ambassador Lighthizer, myself with the President, Jared Kushner. This never came up. And so what I'm just telling you, and we don't need to have this be an extended conversation, is that we were not informed of that by the Justice Department, and there's nothing wrong with that. Justice Department does these things independently on its own, and that's what happened.
Okay, then let me ask you this. Was the President made aware before the arrest happened?
My understanding is you're saying that the arrest happened the day of the dinner, so by definition, no.
Okay, and you weren't made aware. Look, so, but let me just, doesn't it seem like that's something that maybe the president should be made aware of, only because, you know, he's in the middle of this gigantic trade talk and potential deal and a 90-day sort of moratorium on all the tariff stuff? Wouldn't you want the guy who's negotiating that deal to be aware of a pretty significant arrest?
Not in a democracy where the Justice Department operates independently on these particular matters. That's how democracies work. It's an interesting coincidence, Trish, and what it speaks to, I think, to me, is the problem we're having more broadly with China of their bad behavior. On any given day in America, the federal government, one agency or another, is going to take some kind of action against China. We've had numerous actions for countervailing duties on China. These announcements get made all the time by the Department of Commerce. We've had the FBI make announcements about previous espionage. So I think what's important here for this country right now is to talk more broadly about the next, it's getting down to about 80 days.
I get it, but let me, because again, you know, sort of chain of power here, chain of command, and, you know, you're negotiating a big deal. You kind of want as much information as you can possibly have, especially about a big arrest like that. Is the president mad that he wasn't made aware?
You'd have to ask the president. I'm not here to speak for the president's emotions.
Are you mad that you weren't made aware?
No, not at all. And the president, when I've been with him, is always in good humor and trying to parse situations. He's an incredible chief executive, and he's always the smartest guy in the room when I've been with him. He sees the chessboard.
Let's just put it, okay, so I got to tell you, so what I'm hearing through the grapevine is that there are some people that are very worried that, you know, look, the president doesn't necessarily have the best relationship, shall we say, with the DOJ, but they're a little bit worried that this might actually sabotage the trade talks, and the trade talks are really important. What's your response to that?
Here we are in the swamp. I don't believe anything anybody kind of whispers in other people's ears in this town. I see things.
It's not in your town, by the way, sir.
What's that?
There are people that really. It's I'm in the financial capital of the world, and there are a lot of people that would like to see a resolution to these trade talks.
All the more reason why I wouldn't believe anything coming out of Wall Street, because there's a lot of chatter on Wall Street that's trying to steer our trade policy in a different direction.
No. They want success. These particular sources would like to see some success.
Well, to your point, Trish, it's a serious question. Look, this happened. The president was not aware of it, and there was no reason why he needed to be. The Justice Department is pursuing a very serious felony case, and Huawei is a bad actor. We know that Huawei is a bad actor, and so we're going to proceed. I think a lot of this, what happens in the next 80 or so days, is really up to the Chinese side. It's the Chinese side who engages in forced technology transfer, in espionage, in cyber intrusions, in currency manipulation,
they need
and
to
all
stop
of the things that they need to stop. So,
but it's just I just come back to, has President Trump, by the way, has he reached out to Xi at all to talk about this issue? With this
it's
arrest?
not my lane. I don't sit in the Oval and watch what the president does. I'm trying to create jobs for men and women. But I can tell you is that we have a great team that serves this president. It's distinguished by the fact that it has different points of views that are sometimes argued sharply, but never in anger. And he makes his best decisions that way when he has these competing viewpoints. And this was an historic event,
I guess I just feel for you guys because you're going into these negotiations.
Wait.
No,
Peter, don't feel for us.
I'm giving you something here. No. You're going into negotiations. You want to get some kind of resolution. You want to stop China from stealing our intellectual property. Now, this particular woman, this executive, she's the daughter of the founder. It's the biggest telecom company in the world. She's arrested just as you guys are going into the negotiations. I mean, the timing's a little peculiar, and nobody told you it was going to happen.
Well, it's not peculiar. It's a coincidence based on the Department of Justice. But look, I mean, we can talk about the negotiations, or we can talk about Huawei as a bad actor. Both of those are interesting topics. You take your pick. You're the boss here.
Well, it just surprises me, shall we say, that you were all not made aware of that. It seems like kind of a pertinent thing to know as you go into some negotiations. This is like the left hand not talking to the right hand. And I prefer everybody.
I want to be clear. This is not that. This is a Justice Department that operates on an independent track when it deals with felony prosecutions. It had no obligation to inform anybody else about what it was doing in this particular matter. So it just happened. Let it just happen. Let's move on and figure out how to make this.
Are you still able to salvage this? Are you going to get anything out of China? They're saying this is war, by the way. Declaration of war is the Chinese state-run newspaper tonight.
Well, if I believed everything I read in the Chinese state press about the mood in Beijing, I might be in despair. But come on, they're just doing their thing. At the end of the day, what we have on the table from the president of China himself, and an extraordinary 45-minute president, to our president, they have a very good relationship. This was an extraordinary event, Tricia. It's unprecedented for the head of state of China to sit there and present a deal to the American president. It speaks to the strength of this president here in America, as well as to the relationship those two have. So the question is China going to follow through on the 142 items that it promised it would make progress on? Is China going to follow through on all of the structural changes it needs to make in order for them to be a good member of the International Trading Society? It remains to be seen. What I can tell you is this: at the end of that time period, if we don't get what we need for the American people, particularly the working men and women in this country who work with their hands, President Trump will do what needs to be done.
Yeah.